Hey, miles.
Hey, Brian.
And kilometers.
How we doing, buddy?
Dude, I should have known. I should have known that on Wednesday when I got Wordle on my first try, that the rest of the week would just fucking be utter bullshit. Like it was only one way.
Your first try.
I used the same first word every single time, right? It's like it's always my.
Wow.
It's a pretty reliable first word. It's since you can't play old Wordles, it's okay to say what the word was. It was Thyme, Thyme. I always use that every single time as my first word, and it was. I guess it was only a matter of time before it was the word, and so I got Wordle in one. And then the rest of this week has been absolute horseshit. And I guess there was no place to go but down, Miles. No place to go but down.
Would you rather have had it any other way?
No, I mean, dude, I'll sacrifice anything to get Wordle in one.
Exactly, man. That's the moral of the story.
And we've sacrificed everything. Life is horrible because
if PSVR2 gets cancelled, it'd still be worth it, right?
As long as we're allowed to publicly blame Wordle for all of life's problems. Dude,
I love it.
I don't know where we're going with this, but let's fucking get the show started.
I never know where we're going.
Let's do it, man. This is PSVR GamesCast Live, where we film live every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here, 6 p.m. Eastern, live for your viewing pleasure, and sometimes for your oral? Nope. AUR something pleasure. But oral, you know what? Fuck it. And for your oral pleasure over on podcast services of your choice. I should have just ran with it because knowing me, I was going to run with that shit anyway. My name is Brian Pop, and this channel right here, PSVR without Parole, and this gentleman over here, all the way on the other side of the pond, with the most important question of the day, Looper the Underground Game Cat, €2, asks Miles Dyer, 2 Ys from Miles Dyer Official. Do you say keepy uppy?
Why are you laughing?
I'm assuming you watched Ian's PSVR2 coverage over on Eurogamer.
Yep.
I
loved it.
Dude, he used the term keeps the uppies or keepy uppies, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. Keepy uppy. It's a well-known British phrase. It's something we, by law, have to use at least 3 times a day, but I get them out of the way before coming live on air, just so you don't have to experience that, because I know how upset you get when I use Britishisms.
I don't get upset when you use Britishisms. I find it fascinating when you use Britishisms. Okay. Yeah.
I do declare.
See, I want to switch over to you, but now your name is wrong. Look, you're full screen, but you're AJ. Oh God, everything is just broken. I blame Wordle. I blame Wordle, man. This is nonsense. Where the hell is Miles?
Does that mean every time you put me full screen, I got to quickly go grab a black beanie?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what it means. There it is. Now he's officially. Whoops, nope. Now he's officially Miles Dyer Official, and now we're taking him off of full screen. So this is just some of the. There it is. This is just some of the fun stuff I get to do when you guys have no idea that I'm running the show. Miles, how you doing, man? How's your week been? Oops, sirens on my end.
The week has been absolutely manic for me. I am very much looking forward to a weekend of lots of rest. Although there's lots of VR I want to be playing. It's been good. Wednesday had a really good live show. Loads more Game Cats came flooding in because the topic was about the royal family in the UK and sort of giving my take on it. But it was a really respectful but vibrant conversation. Like, we covered a lot of ground. If you have missed it, it's one of the few times, I should probably do it every week, but one of the few times I'd really recommend going back to watch it. So it's on my YouTube channel. It was just good. I think always talking about these kind of weird cultural things with the wider population around the world is always really good. And then apart from that, just been tuning into PSVR without Parole as all the news kept coming in. The show with you and Wes on Wednesday was really, really good, about all these hands-on. And I've also been really blown away by all this new Dream stuff. I saw what you and AJ shared, this Jurassic Park Dreams creation. Looks absolutely phenomenal. on the small Twitter video. So I'm definitely going to be having to install that and jump in. Have you, Brian, experienced it yet in VR?
I don't think it's published yet. I could be wrong.
Oh, is it not?
Yeah,
Okay.
and but it does look absolutely amazing. I obviously just saw the video on his Twitter page, and he posted a couple videos. He even posted a VR video showing what it looks like from inside the Jeep with the it the T-Rex coming down from like the sunroof, and you're like, oh my god, fucking crazy. And even he said, like, God, it kind of feels like I'm inside the movie.
And what I especially love about those kind of these kind of moments is it's not like just a recent movie. That's from like Jurassic Park was the 90s, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like a famous scene from the night. I always think about going back in time and telling the actors then or the crew, like, in 30 years' time, someone is going to be playing a game where they recreate this in virtual reality. It's just absolutely mind blowing. So yeah, the Dreams platform continues to impress.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean the platform itself, and of course all the creators who are just insanely talented, and obviously just sharing all this for free. I mean, dude, yeah, the least we can do is show our support, and of course, share these videos and talk about them on the show. But you guys out there, if you're looking for something new to play in Dreams, we'll share those links as they come in, the indreams.me links. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Less good stuff is today's news, man. I think in case you missed it, Miles, I don't think you did.
Nope.
Over on the official PlayStation podcast, episode 439, called Virtual Impressions, today Hideaki shared some interesting news about PlayStation VR2. Basically telling us for the first time, I know a lot of people thought that this was confirmed a long time ago. Some people thought that backwards compatibility was confirmed to be a thing on PSVR2 a long time ago. So just keep that in mind. There's obviously been a lot of misinformation out there for the better part of the last year or two. But here, real quick, let me just read. After I click that button and click that button, then I can read Hideaki Nishino's quote from the official PlayStation podcast. PSVR games are not compatible with PSVR 2 because PSVR 2 is designed to deliver a truly next-generation experience. PSVR 2 has much more advanced features like a new controller, sirens on my end, with haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, and inside-out tracking, eye tracking in the headset, 3D audio, all coming together, of course. So this means developing PSVR 2 requires a whole different approach from the original PSVR. I find this to be a horrible explanation as to why they're not backwards compatible. I mean,
completely agree.
We can talk about if it was even possible to begin with in a second, but Miles, do you think this was delivered in the best way possible?
So I actually watched your breaking news report once I got back from a nice flotation tank session. So I was nice and zen-like. I wasn't stressed. I was calm. And I felt really irritated, calmly irritated. Like in my head, I was like, why are they saying it like this? And I know it's not exactly the same, but straight away, my mind walked back to when Sony were responding to the news that the PlayStation 5 would not allow you to use your DualShock 4 controllers for PS5 titles. And they used the typical PR speak, which is totally understandable, which is we want users to experience these next generation titles with all the features that are possible. And that's what they're saying here, because, and we will get to all this in a moment about the fact that, we're going from light tracking to inside out cameras, and that is personally what I would have liked for them to lead on, which is, we're leaving behind the old way of doing things and there's a new way of doing it. And yes, we can have a discussion of, does that really stop them? But the idea that they just straight away only say it as it's because we want everyone to experience all these new features, I just find it's a bit of a dodge. It's kind of like it is the truth, but also it feels more of an awkward dodge. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it doesn't seem like they're speaking to you directly from the get-go, and it's just, why? But that's the nature of like an official PlayStation podcast. It's actually just a press release. It's not an actual conversation, in my opinion.
Well, that's the craziest part about it. It's an official PlayStation podcast. If you don't think that, if anybody out there thinks that this was a surprise question, that Hideaki Nishino didn't think he was going to be asked this question, dude, I'm sure he had a list of questions that he was going to be asked ahead of time, just to make sure that A, all those questions they were allowed to ask him and he was allowed to answer, and B, to make sure he had a good fucking, PR response for each one of them. And so he knew this question was coming and he still didn't have a good response for it. And that's probably the most disappointing thing. I mean, like, I could pull a better answer out of my ass right now other than PSVR2 is just way better than PSVR1. So sorry. It's like, he didn't even say sorry. Like, he didn't even say, I know it's going to be a disappointment to fans. Again, it's the same thing when Jim Ryan announced that PlayStation 5 was going to get a price hike in a couple different territories or most of the world other than the United States. He didn't even say, we apologize or we're sorry. We know that this is a tough time for people. He just said, thanks for your continued support. Like,
right.
Really? That's the best you've got, Jim?
The way I would have framed it personally is something along the lines of this, which is that PSVR2 is going to come along with incredible features that the VR market has never seen before in domestic devices. And we feel that all those great titles made for PSVR1 should come along to the next generation if they come with the right patches to, to take advantage of those great features. That's the kind of way that you frame it, because then what you're doing is you're kind of saying, we're not just ignoring it, because at the moment it's kind of like, oh no, that's just like the last generation. Like we're drawing a line here and moving on, and there are reasons that we'll get to in a moment of why it is important just to focus on the next generation titles first. But it would have been nice to at least said the last generation, these developers have helped make PlayStation VR the success it is, and we feel that for PSVR2 gamers to enjoy those classic titles, that should be done with the appropriate patches. But I don't work for Sony, so
Agreed. Jeanette Blasphemy, the ghosting game cat, with a $2 tip says, goodbye PSVR1 backlog. Well, I guess there's a positive. Like if your backlog was like driving you crazy, and you're like, I got all these games to get through. Well, but we also got Steve IRE in the chat who said, well, all this isn't nearly as bad as, quote, get a second job that they stated when they announced the PlayStation 3 price at $599 US. So it's slightly better marketing, but Miles, I do think that this is sort of a I think that Steve kind of puts us into a little bit of a different conversation in that this is just Sony's. If this announcement today, which again was done in a podcast, obviously you don't want to like do this in a showcase or make a big spectacle like, hey, press release, just want to let everybody know. Not backwards compatible. You do want to be as subtle as you possibly can about this when you're breaking bad news. So a podcast wasn't the worst way to go. But the fact is like this comes at the tail end of Sony's horrible messaging, right? We got this generation has come along, and right off the bat, scalpers get their hands on PlayStation 5s, and Sony didn't seem to do anything about it. They made it really difficult for people to get PlayStation 5s when the economy was doing poorly, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. Supply chain issues were a major problem, and they seem to be like, well, as long as they're selling, we don't care if they're being sold to scalpers. And then the $70 price of PlayStation 5 games, just the PlayStation 5 price hikes and bad communication. We still don't have a showcase announced, right? And then the state of play happened as kind of a stopgap thing, and it wasn't terribly good. It just seems like if this was the only bad news Sony had delivered in the last year or two, we would have been. I personally would have been like, all right, a little bit bad news along with the good. I can handle it. But when it's just like when it's constantly like, dude, don't you guys have anything good to share with us? Like, really, what? Like, give us some good news. And like, so I don't think that there's a lot of people out there who are like getting really, really upset about this news. But I don't think they're overreacting. I think this is the straw that broke a lot of people's backs. They're just like, fucking, are you serious, man? Just why does it have to be bad news after bad news after bad news? It's too much.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, and this is a term that you and I, Brian, have used on a lot of shows the past week, which is, disappointed but not surprised. And I think when it comes to this, the thing that annoyed me wasn't the news itself; it was just the messaging. If there is things that can't be done, I'd rather they were just more upfront about it. And I think that that's the thing we've always seen is the lack of clarity, the lack of being straightforward. I always talk about Phil Spencer a lot from Xbox. He has his own spin. I mean, he's head of Xbox, and especially when you look in the debates at the moment regarding Activision acquisition, it is a game of chess.
Right.
But for the most part, Phil Spencer has a good brand of being a straight talker. And again, I'm saying with the caveats that it's not to say he is without spin, but in comparison to Jim Ryan, which is a lot more, I just say like politician-y, it's a lot more kind of not giving straight answers but when they do give straight answers, they get rewarded for it. Like everyone's like, thank you, Sony, for being upfront about it. But it seems that they're always so cautious that look at the price hike with the PlayStation 5s. Doesn't say why it's everywhere except the US. Now there's an answer to that, but they're not saying it. And I think consumers and loyal fans of Sony PlayStation for up to 20 plus years deserve better. But yeah.
Josh with the $10 tip says gamers are entitled whiners. Take note, Sony does not owe you anything just because you bought their product. So if it bothers you so much, just don't buy a PSVR2. I'm sure Sony will care. It's a little strange. I always find it's a little strange to hear that people just are like, shut the fuck up, don't complain about anything that's wrong. You know what would happen if we all shut the fuck up and didn't complain about anything that was wrong? Sony's games would be $80, and the console would be $700. And they would just, dude, if you don't complain, if you don't fucking voice your opinion, if you don't do, that's the one reason we're here, man, right? It's like, this game came out and it's really fucking bad, right? It's like you need to complain about these things or they're never going to get fixed. You need to have conversations about this, or Sony they are a fucking multi-billion-dollar corporation, as you said, Josh. They don't care about you, right? And they are going to sell us the one thing that I really do care about this generation, that is PSVR 2. So we need to, along with all you guys, make this the best possible thing we can and use any influence that we have as a channel and as a community to make it better, and to have Sony listen and say, this is what fucking VR gamers want. Pay attention. Otherwise, they'll just fucking keep raping us over and over and over. And some of you guys out there will be like, harder, Sony. We fucking love it. But the rest of us will be like, guys, come on. This is ridiculous. And let's make things better.
Well, just look at what's happened with EA Games and Battlefront 2. There was massive backlash to the point that a lot of people decided not to buy the games, and as a result, they made changes. In the realms of Sony and PlayStation, they announced, was it this year or the year before, when Jim Ryan spoke about them closing down the PlayStation 3 stores, I think it was, and then people had concerns about, legacy games and game preservation. And then Jim Ryan came out and said, yeah, this was a mistake, and we're going to turn it around. And they got praise for that, and rightly so. Like, we should commend them when they do things that we like, and we should be critical when they do things that we don't like. That's a part of the conversation. But the reason Brian and I are here is because we love PlayStation, we love Sony, we love PSVR. We don't do this to just be bitter for bitter's sake. We're doing it also just to spur
speak
conversation.
For yourself. I'm bitter and I just want to fucking yell about it.
Yeah. But that is the reality of it, no matter what Brian says.
Yeah. It's absolutely true. But enough about that. I think a big question was a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people in the comments have been saying this. It's ridiculous that anybody would have even asked for this. That the technology is so much different. It wouldn't be possible anyway. And I'm here to tell you that it's totally possible. I've talked to plenty of developers who know what they're talking about, who have hands-on with PSVR2 dev kits, who just understand the tech, and they've absolutely said that if Sony wanted to make it happen, then they could make it happen. And there's a couple different ways to go about that. First, you could emulate the Move controllers with the Sense controllers. You could kind of like trick the PSVR2 headset into thinking you're using PSVR 1 tech. That's a way to go about it. But don't forget this whole other way that's extremely possible. We're all playing PlayStation VR 1 currently, or a lot of us are at least, sorry for anyone who's not, on our PlayStation 5s. right? We have a camera set up. We've got our Move controllers. We've got our DualShock with the light tracking. We've got our aim controller. And that's all working perfectly fine on PlayStation 5. And so all we're really doing here, if Sony said, hey, backwards compatibility is a thing, but you have to keep all of your old accessories, including the camera. Well, I mean, think about the small amount of work it would take for Sony to just make the PSVR 2 headset act as a PSVR 1 headset. Never mind the fucking controls, right? So if you think about it that way, it's totally possible. Backwards compatibility is possible in numerous ways, and that would have been the lowest effort way. So it's absolutely doable. They just chose not to make it work, and I think that's number one here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think, though, that it comes down to how they want the launch to go. When the launch happens, they want to have control over what are the experiences that people are reporting on.
Yes.
And I agree with you. It would be good to have access to using the old camera, and which I currently use on the PS5 to play my PlayStation VR 1. But they want people to just be playing the newer experiences just to get the ball rolling. So there's every chance that, and I'm not highly optimistic about this, there is every chance that they will allow backwards compatibility in the future, but maybe not at the start. But the thing I would say about the mapping aspect with the controllers, and this is just me thinking out loud, each Move controller had, 8 buttons on it. You had the trigger, you had the Move button, the 4, and then the 2 on the side. So that's 16. Whereas the new controllers they just have 2 shape buttons on each.
Right.
They have a trigger
and
L1,
grip.
R1.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so way less buttons. But you could also make Sony can also make that remappable. We've seen that before.
Right. So my point is that it can be remappable, but even on the Move controller, how traversal was done in terms of, is it where you point, is it where you're looking when you press the Move button, or is it where you're pointing it? It's not a one size fits all.
Right.
So it would require the devs themselves to, PlayStation could do it manually themselves, but quite frankly, they've already doing it with trying to make.
The thing we have to remember is when we're talking about straight backwards compatibility, we're not saying any kind of upgrades at all, right? We're not saying 4K or this or that or anything. We're literally saying, hey, you're going to have to hold a button on your Sense controller and point the direction you want to move, which is of course not ideal. Right. So I think people would very quickly get tired of playing their old PSVR 1 games with Sense controllers, and when we have all these updated controls, and going, oh wow, this does look pretty rough.
But I'm not a dev, so I don't know what the case is with this. But is there a physics difference between doing it with a Move controller where it's light and in-out camera tracking? Is there a factor that comes into it's not just you swap it and you simulate what it would be with the light Move controllers? I don't know, but I do think it's a smart move in the sense that, and it's kind of what I was alluding to with the podcast answer, is I like the idea that if a dev wants their PSVR 1 titles and there's enough people saying, why is this not playable on PSVR 2, it gives the devs an option to say, all right, we're going to do a patch for PSVR 2, and it means you don't only get to play a PSVR 1 game, you get to play an upgraded one. And for me, that's kind of exciting. Yeah. The concern with that is, and we're probably going to go over the games that we'd like to see. All the biggest titles are going to be ones that probably do get that upgrade. My concern is about the indie games made by maybe 1 or 2 people. They've long gone years ago now, moved on to other projects just because that game alone was probably not enough to keep them going. And so a lot of those people aren't going to be going back, firing up their dev kits or what have you, and then remapping it for the PSVR 2. That's a very expensive process. So in those cases, you would want a backwards compatibility to automate those processes. So I can see it in both ways.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think a lot of the smart developers out there. I just saw somebody tweeting on Twitter. That's the place where you tweet. They were saying, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're not going to be able to play Beat Saber on PSVR 2. I'm like, why don't you think we'll be able to play Beat Saber on PSVR 2? It's one of the most popular VR games out there, right? And his response was, well, yeah, but I want to pay for it again. And I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense, right? I don't think people should be paying for games that they already bought, especially when you were an early supporter of some of these companies. When Beat Saber became so popular because of everybody who got into VR on the ground floor and supported them from day one and have been buying their DLC from day one. Like it just seems like I don't think the smart developers out there are going to be charging for any kind of upgrade. Beat Saber will obviously be on PSVR 2. It'll obviously be on PSVR 2, and if you own it on PSVR 1, I'm not going to guarantee.
There's no way they're going to get everyone buying all the DLCs again.
Well, there should be a free upgrade for everything you bought on Beat Saber, and the game, all the DLC brings it into PSVR 2. You get higher definition, visuals. You get some sense support, and it just looks better. It feels better. The whole thing plays better, and you've got all your DLC. And so that way, no one out there who's spent hundreds of dollars on Beat Saber is going to feel so alienated that they say, well, fuck this game. If I can't, I'm not going to rebuy all this shit. Like, you lose a customer for life by doing it that way.
I think Beat Games are a company, and I could be wrong because they're part of Meta. So what decisions get made, maybe from higher up. But my sense is, for Beat Games, this is an amazing opportunity that if they said, if you've bought it for PSVR 1, you get a PSVR 2 upgrade. And look, Beat Saber is now one of the most played PSVR 2 games at launch. That would be such an easy way for them to dominate the market straight away, is by allowing that transformation of PSVR 1 players straight onto PSVR 2. Beat Saber is a game that I can't wait to play on PSVR 2. Like, if I was to sort of talk about top 5, I would say top 5 most anticipated PSVR 2 experiences. For me, Beat Saber's on there because I've never actually played Beat Saber on any other headset, so I've never known what it's like to not use light tracking.
Oh, you are in for a disappointment, my friend. Those Move controllers are the perfect weight. And
I can't. That is true.
Yeah, dude, I can't play Beat Saber on my Quest. I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. These sabers feel too short. They don't have like a. It's almost like when you're playing drums. It's like you need that stick.
Yeah.
You need. You just need that weight to kind of bring the Move controller back down itself sometimes. Like, it's part of the rhythm that you fall into. And I just can't imagine doing that with the Sense controllers. But still, we'll get used to them, obviously.
Don't worry, Brian. Jim Ryan's about to announce that they're releasing a new PS5 peripheral where you attach your Move controller to the new PSVR 2 controllers. And so you get the experience of both, and you can keep using your Move controllers.
Oh, my God. We got Arian in the chat with the 35 cubic zirconia says, can you imagine if Sony said they won't do cross-gen because of all the great PS5 features? Early on, there was the "We believe in generations" quote. Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. Like, I think I'm pretty sure people would be pretty upset if we weren't able to play our PlayStation 4 games on PlayStation 5. Obviously, PlayStation 5 is so much more powerful than PlayStation 4, but yet somehow we're able to play all the games on it because Sony decided to put the work in. Also, we got Nice and Crispy in the chat, developer over there at Star Tenders, making the game Star Tenders, says, almost as if a free upgrade version should exist for PS4 to PS5. Cough, cough, hint, hint. See, now here's what I'm talking about. He's obviously alluding to the fact that Star Tenders will be available on PSVR 2 with a free upgrade. Now, if enough developers out there decide to do the exact same thing and reward people who've already bought their game, and not only that, Miles, not only reward the people who have already bought your game, but now make your game available to millions and millions and millions of brand new VR gamers, people who have never even picked up a Quest, people who have gone from Quest to PSVR 2 and have never been part of the PlayStation ecosystem before, people who put down their PSVR 1 a long time ago and are suddenly getting back into VR because they were tired of video games or VR games getting stale. There's so many people who are about to be a PSVR 2 gamer that either have never played VR before or haven't been part of the VR ecosystem for a long time. And if you bring your game, your PSVR 1 game, to PSVR 2 and offer a free upgrade to the people who've already bought your game, Fuck the 100,000 people who maybe bought your game already. Fuck them. Doesn't matter. Give it to them for free, right? You got 100,000 people now talking about your game for the first time in fucking years, right? That's called free advertising, Miles. Free advertising, right?
I like free advertising.
So many people out there would be like, oh man, I already played Star Tenders on PSVR1. I'm not going to pay a $10 upcharge for PSVR2. I've already paid for this game. I've already played it. But if you're like, oh, I already have it in my library and I get a free PSVR2 upgrade, I might play Star Tenders again. You know,
and that has even more benefit if it's multiplayer games. Because then you have the sort of halo effect. Well, there's two halo effects with that marketing. One is you've got a multiplayer game, so if you get the free upgrade, you then may encourage people that don't own it to then get it to join in with you. So that's great. And the other halo effect is you then release additional DLC. You see that a lot with PlayStation Plus games that are free. I remember The Sims 2 or 3 came out, and I was like, oh, that's good, that's free. And you go on it and then you realize they've got like 50 DLCs at like $5 each for different like tables and chairs and stuff like that. But that's exactly why it's done. So and on the conversation of devs, I have a question for you, Brian, but for the chat and also the devs, this is sort of one of my thought experiments when we talk about these issues. But let's just say it was backwards compatible, like instantly, so all PSVR 1 games are now playable in PSVR 2. What do you think the effect of that would be? Do you think that would encourage more or less developers to patch their games to take advantage of the new platform? I'd argue the latter, that it would encourage less, because they'd go, well, I don't need to do anything now because it's available on there. But the flip side of the argument is it's there automatically, and they're like, oh wow, this game is actually getting some traction again. Now we have that interest. Now we have justification to now do the update. But I'm kind of sort of throwing it out there of the automatic backwards compatibility. Because the other argument is, well, no, by saying to have it on PSVR 2, you have to patch it. It may encourage more devs going, all right, I can't just wait and see. We have to take advantage of this launch window to get our game that second wind, which, again, is more difficult for indie developers than it is for the big dogs.
True. This is a good thought experiment, Miles. I like this. I've never heard the term before, but I like it. And as you say it, I go, yeah, man, absolutely. Right? If your game is simply just not playable on PSVR 2, and it was a popular PSVR 1 game, or let's even look at it a different way. More sirens on my end. Let's look at it a different way. A game that wasn't even terribly popular on PSVR 1, didn't sell terribly well, right? That means you have a second chance, right? Because you don't have to really redesign it from scratch or do anything like that, or make new assets. All you're doing is, I say all you're doing, and I apologize to any devs out there who I'm making this sound like you push a button and it's PSVR 2 compatible. It's obviously not. There's a lot of work that goes into remastering a game. I know. It's really insane. No.
What? I thought they had a little button on their dev kit that goes PSVR 2 now. Yeah. Like a throttle when you go warp speed on the Star Trek Enterprise. You just... There we are. We're on PSVR 2 ready.
There was a quote from somebody years ago who said he was learning to play guitar, and he said, if it wasn't for all the people out there who already play guitar and are standing on the stage playing it in front of me, I would have thought it impossible. So, and I always think about that when it comes to game design, right? Because I always hear how difficult game design is, and so every so often when I'm like minimizing it and being like, oh, well, why don't you just add this? I think about that quote and go, yeah, it's fucking impossible to make games. So the fact that we get any games at all is sort of a minor miracle. But I do think you're right, man. I do think that this is such a second chance for every person who's ever made, or every team who's ever made a VR game prior to this, to say, hey, look, let's take a second look at this game, maybe fix a few of the things that people didn't like when we first put it out. You know, any dings that gave us a poor review. This is legit a second chance to make a first impression, because again, so many new VR gamers are about to buy a PlayStation VR 2, and this game will be new to them. So fix the things that didn't work, make the graphics look nice and shiny, give us the use of the adaptive triggers and haptics in the headset, and you don't even need to be like, oh, this is a remaster of a 10-year-old game. No, just be like, look at this great game that we're trying to sell you, right? It's going to be brand new to 95% of the market. Most people who have a PlayStation VR 2 will likely have never played PlayStation VR 1, period. Sell us your game all over again. Or if you sold it on PSVR1, give us a free upgrade, because that'd be super nice of you.
Well, Shooty Game Cat in the chat was saying the job is for the devs to get. The job is for the devs to get these games updated for PSVR2. Getting a rough ass backwards compatible version would suck ass. Done properly, yes, please. I like that idea though, which is, if you want people playing these classic games that have never done it before, you don't want them to start playing it and going, oh, this one doesn't work that well. What about this one? Oh, this works fine, but there's an issue. I mean, look at we keep talking about Rush of Blood and the pause thing. That's not even across different PlayStation VR headsets where it's hardware. That is just the console, where you'd argue the architecture is actually a lot more similar. And actually, it's nothing to do with the tracking. It's just like a pause button keeps getting hit.
Yeah.
So I do think that there would. It's kind of one of those things of like, yeah, we could press a button and just say it's all backwards compatible, but they've probably actually done a lot of calculations to realize, yeah, all right, 60% will work pretty good, but 40% will be absolutely disastrous, and 40% is too big of a percentage to deal with. You just got to look at what they're doing with all the backwards compatibility for their PlayStation, not extra premium, with all the the PlayStation 1 games that they've now got emulations for, and that there's been issues with that on launch, and those are flat screen games. VR, there's a lot more components to it. Yeah,
I think
so many titles, man. I'd love to see though get the upgrade.
For sure. And I do want to state that, I think I was in the same boat as most people when hearing this news. I think everybody's first reaction is going to be an emotional response, right? Your emotional response is, oh, come on, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. I've got 500 PSVR1 games, and I was really looking forward to putting my PSVR1 headset away. I've got all these wires attached to it that are crisscrossing my living room, and I was so hopeful that I could put that shit away, right, and not have to, pull it out every time I want to play a PSVR1 game, which is going to be few and far between. But then, we start having conversations like this, and we're like, there's here and there, it starts to make a little bit more sense as to why this is the case, or at least try to add a little bit of reason to the conversation, because again, first responses can be extremely emotional.
Absolutely. Can I just ask a question?
Of course.
Do we know that for PSVR2 that the DualSense controller will not be an option?
We don't.
Is that something we don't?
We don't.
Because the question was always, if there's a new Astrobot, will you be able to use the DualSense controller? Yeah. But that would require, is it now the lights on the front of it down the side that your camera sees? Because we've got Astrobot looking sad on the thumbnail of this video, which I was telling Brian before we went live. I love it so much. But yeah, it's like there are some games where it doesn't require the dual shot controller to be moved. Resident Evil 7, for example, and yes, we'd want Resident Evil 7 to have actual, individual hands. But in those cases, you could argue, those could easily get patched across. But I do think it's not just about the controllers; it's about the way that the headsets work as well. Because you've got eye tracking, which means I don't think it's just the PSVR 2 is the PSVR 1 with these extra features on top. Right. It actually is. And again, I'm just talking completely out of my league when it comes to out of my knowledge when it comes to development. But I assume actually the architecture of the headset is actually different all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I agree with so much of everything you just said. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. I don't want to let all these tips get past us.
Please. Let's go through them.
All right. We got Salvador with the $10 tip says, it's going to be interesting to see how Dreams is going to handle this. Are they going to have to make PSVR and PSVR2 list and setup? Sounds like Dreams 2. If they can do it, Sony can.
And then does that mean that any games that are made on Dreams, the PSVR 1 or, the PS4 version, you won't then be able to play on each version,
Yeah, I mean
that's a big headache.
The fact is that already, if you make a game on PlayStation 5 using the thermo of the PlayStation 5, all the expanded memory, some of it just won't run on PS4, right? The OG, we had that problem with the Pro in the original. So so this is just adding to the confusion. I don't know how they would do it, but I really hope I think it would be smart for them to have a PSVR2, a separate version for PSVR2 and PlayStation 5.
Or one of those things where you can upgrade it, but you can't use it back again, because there's a lot of games where when you upgrade it to PS5, you won't be able to play this on PS4 anymore.
Or just stop making games that are that have been created on PlayStation 5 available to the PS4 and Pro group, right? It's like if you've got the most powerful hardware, then you can play everything that's backward. But if you're back here, you can't play the stuff in front of you. It's like I don't know. So as you upgrade, you get more. I don't know. It's good. I'm glad. Let's just say this. Based on my response just now, I'm so glad I'm not the one that's dealing with this problem.
Yeah.
Alberto Mopam, El Game Gato, with the 50 Mexican pesos, says, "Hey, cats. Happy Mexican Independence Day. Viva la Mexico." I said added a la just to make it sound more Spanish, which was probably super inappropriate. Cabrones. Yeah. I used to work in a Spanish restaurant. I still can't. And I took 5 years of Spanish in high school. That's right. I said 5, not 4. Don't read into it. And I still can't fucking speak Spanish. It's ridiculous. I'm embarrassed. Thank you so much, Alberto Mapom. Arian with the 35 cubic zirconia says, I can't remember the exact wording, but do you think the 20 launch games that Jim Ryan was talking about includes PSVR2 remasters? I hope not. Because we do know of a few games that are going to be coming out for both. We do not open. Those guys at Nox Noctis have talked about making sure they have a PSVR2 version. We know that Alvo is going to have a PSVR2 version. I think awesome. Alex Sin has been teasing, if not coming right out and saying it. He wants to have Swordsman on PSVR2. He's at least been teasing that. And so
awesome.
All awesome. However, let's hope that these are not included in the 20 launch titles. I would like them to be new to the PlayStation platform.
I don't think they are.
Yeah, agreed. Man, Bear, Pig, Game, Cat, also oink. And
half man, half bear, half pig, half game, and half cat.
I want to know which half of each of these animals are being shoved into the other.
Yeah.
The $2 tip says Robinson the Journey would have been awesome on PSVR 2.
I agree.
Yeah. Did you?
That was actually on my top 50 as well. Like I know I always get this when I talk about how much I love the game. I always sort of imagine a lot of laughing in the background, like because I was quite late to the party with that game. I thought, did people actually hate it or think it wasn't that great? Like I thought it was a beautiful to look at game. Like and it had its problems, but you have a pet dinosaur. I loved it. And I would love to experience those environments with higher resolution.
Yeah, that was so disappointing when that was one of the very, very few games that didn't work on PSVR.
Yes.
On PS5.
That was why I played it actually, because I was looking before going to my PS5. That was the last game, my platinum, before I went to PS5, because I was like, "Yep, if I don't play it now, I'm not getting my PS4 out again."
This is an interesting take, and it comes from Snafu with the $5 tip. Says, I feel so down and foolish right now. Like I spent the last year wasting money. I'm almost broke now. Could sure use that money back. You guys rock though. Well, thank you. You rock too, Snafu.
Yeah.
It does. It does suck.
That's
I know
a great point.
A lot of people bought a PSVR 1 in the last year or so, thinking that they were buying games that if they didn't get around to, like especially with all the sales that we've had on the PlayStation Network, they thought they were buying games that would be, if they didn't get around to them on PSVR 1, that they'd be playable on PSVR 2. And so I get the frustration for sure. I'm fortunate. I'm in a obviously very different position than a lot of people, where like I got every game at launch, whether I bought them or I got a review key, and I played the crap out of them, and I got like to the point where I was like, okay, I don't want to play this game anymore. Now I can review it and then move on to the next game. So few people are in that position where they played every game to completion and then moved on to the next one and are okay kind of moving on. So I feel for you, Snafu. I really do.
That'd be actually a good topic for a future show of like, what are people going to be doing with their PSVR 1s? I mean, today's episode might answer that for a lot of people.
I'm going to make it into a fish tank, obviously.
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that. I'm actually, and I was really, really happy when I found this out. But my parents were like, "Oh, we'll have it. We'll give you a bit of money for it afterwards." My parents, I'm going to give them my PlayStation 4. It's obviously going to have all the games on it because you can have it on multiple consoles. And my parents, who they enjoy playing PSVR every Christmas, I take it over. It'd be nice to think I could play multiplayer. See, this is another example. I'd love to play Creed boxing with my dad, or you know what I mean. Now that or Beat Saber, that is the element that I will hope we can do, because that was something I was excited at the idea of. Is my parents now, without them, really buying it, are going to be playing VR, and so now I can play VR with my parents. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. Jesse J, the Tower Mage Gamecast, says just keep the current headset. It's not going anywhere. I don't know what everybody's living situation is. I don't know what everybody's living room looks like. But if anybody living in a place even remotely close to what mine is like, I live in a 475 square foot 1-bedroom apartment, and there's like, and I'm here by myself with Tornado. Don't tell her I said by myself. She wouldn't appreciate that. And there's not enough room for anything, man. Like, pulling one thing out means I got to put another thing away, right? It's like I'm constantly stepping over shit. Like if I don't clean every week, it almost looks like an episode of Hoarders in here, right? And so again, I definitely understand people who are living in a situation like mine who don't have a house or a nice, spacious apartment to kind of spread their arms and enjoy their space. I would love to be able to put my PSVR 1 headset away forever and be like, okay, I still have access to these games, and I don't need to hook up this thing with all these wires that are crisscrossing my room. It's craziness. Let's get a couple more tips out of the way, man. GC13, the Diet Pepsi Cat, ran with the $5 tip, says, love all the new names I see in the chat. Welcome to the best community. Join our Discord. We're a loony bunch. Thank you so much, Tiff. Click the link in the description below. These conversations happen like 24/7 there. And it's just a cool place to hang out. And if you want to get multiplayer games together, dude, Miles, while we're on the topic, do you want to explain? You want to explain what happens on Multiplayer Sunday?
Yeah. I was like, is Brian going into a segue?
No.
And then as I saw you smiling, I was like, yep.
Yeah.
So Professor Lilith, an amazing game cat, organises a multiplayer game for us all to get involved with every Sunday at
2 p.m. Eastern.
What?
Sunday.
2 p.m. Eastern,
Yep.
7 p.m. UK time. We meet together on the Discord, which is the top link in the description to this video, this live stream. Click it, join. It's an amazing community. We have voice chat if you sign up on Patreon and support the show that way. But yeah, this week's multiplayer is Killing Floor Incursion.
Bing.
So for me, this was a top 50 game for me, just because I loved the co-op of it. It's a shame it's only 2-player co-op, but this will be a great way if you've maybe only played half the game and you were like, well, does anyone really play it anymore? This is your chance. Get involved, and I actually might jump back in, because the thing I found really good about these weekly multiplayers, Brian, is it's a good way of cleaning up the trophy lists. Like on Star Trek Bridge Crew a couple of weeks ago, got what I thought was the toughest trophy. There's one that's a bit more difficult, but I'm pretty close now to platinum in that game. And actually, that game, Killing Floor Incursion, I think it's actually a pretty doable trophy list. I think you do need to complete it single player on the hardest mode, though, which I've heard isn't that difficult. Because often what happens in these games is the enemies themselves don't actually behave differently. It's just that they do more damage. So if you work out how to keep running circles to avoid the boss, it just means you have to keep leaning behind you and shooting with a pistol a bit longer to get through it. But what do you make of Killing Floor Incursion? I mean, we spoke on the top 50 about it a little bit.
Great game. Still one of the best looking PSVR 1 games there is. I mean, every time I jump into it, I'm like, wow, this just looks like you could tell a lot of care was put into it. The physics are so much fun. Being able to chop enemies up like with a knife and just like, beat other enemies up with a head or an arm that you pulled off of a prior enemy. It's goofy, but still somewhat serious at the same time. And they add just enough puzzles and different segments into it to make it feel like a little bit more than your standard zombie shooter. And again, with a friend, like you said, it's just so much fun. So highly recommended.
I describe it as fun horror as well. I mean, there's the sort of like xenomorph spiders in the first level, the ones I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually really freaky, and it's the way that when you kill them, they do that. Actually, kind of like the old Resident Evil, I think lickers when they die, and they sort of go into rigor mortis, and their legs are sort of going in. Hate it. And in VR, it's just so bad.
So again, if you want to join us for some multiplayer Killing Floor Incursion, join our Discord and make sure you check out that channel over there to team up with people. And again, Professor Lilith will be organizing that. It's happening this Sunday. Legend. 2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, good stuff. Nice. Next tip comes from Nice and Crispy with a £1 79. What is it when it's not a pound? When it's not a quid? It's at one quid 79
pence.
Pence.
Yeah.
Not confirming anything. Marketing is hard. Okay, so that's in regards to Star Tenders. He's saying I'm not confirming a PlayStation VR2 patch or upgrade.
Sure.
But
it's an ambition, like, for a lot of these devs. Well, I'm sure a lot of these devs, especially who are making games now, are like, yeah, if the opportunity's there, of course I'm going to jump on it. It's going to be the best marketing ever,
right,
to be in that launch list.
We'll choose to read between the lines, whether you want us to or not. Serial Killer, the forwards incompatible game cat with a $5 tip says, I'm just gonna keep both headsets plugged into my PS5 and let them duke it out to see which one wins. I like that. This is why I don't read tips before I read them out loud, because that shit's funny. So Kevin Teek or Teke or Tuku it says, so do I play Iron Man VR on my PSVR, or will there be a PSVR2 update? That's a big question. I think that's a huge question that we need to start asking developers, and any developer who's able to say, hey, this is something I'm working on. We implore you. This is the day, right? This is the day that we learn PSVR2 won't be backwards compatible. This is the first day that we need to start asking developers and begging developers to be like, please let us know what your PSVR2 plans are. Please let us know, Servios, that you plan to bring raw data over to PSVR2. Hopefully with the multiplayer that we didn't get the first time around. Synth Riders. Like, how about Synth Riders on PSVR2? Are we getting a free update? Like, I don't know what developers are allowed to say right now and what they're not allowed to say, but it's time for developers to start talking and let them know, hey guys, don't worry. All of your favorite games are going to be on PSVR2. We promise, and we're going to give you a free upgrade. We need to start learning the details of these things as soon as possible, because it lessens the blow a little bit, and because we want to know what we're going to be doing at launch. It's going to be nice to look forward to these things and see your games with a nice, nice new 4K display. And new controllers.
Zenith.
Yes,
would be good.
Yes, agreed. Ramen VR. What the hell are you doing?
I actually hope I know people always go, oh, Miles talking about Rec Room again. I hope Rec Room gets the upgrade, because I want their Battle Royale mode to be more than, 12 or 16 players. Like, but then they'd have to have new servers, like, or just PSVR2 only. Do you know what I mean? I just want there to be a Battle Royale game where it's like 40 to 50. I feel like we're moving into that territory, though, because Fortnite VR is like, even if it's not announced, we agree that we're living in a time now where that is actually possible. Like, it's feasible.
Right. So, hey, before we move on to 20 questions, what games are on top of your list? Like, what games do you need to see get? First of all, do you think there are any absolutes in terms of these PSVR2 patches? I've talked to a bunch of developers who have said that they are making their game PSVR2 compatible or giving us PSVR2 patches, the whole thing. Do you think, but without, ruining any NDAs and shit, do you think there are any absolutes? Any games that you think there's, of course we're getting this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know any, so this is all speculation,
Mm-hmm.
but a company that I could imagine will be definitely jumping at this is End Dreams. I can imagine Fract getting a PSVR2 update. And because they're doing lots of PSVR2 titles, we believe.
Studio Elevation, right, is sort of designed for AAA next-gen VR games.
Right.
So, yeah, I do think they've got a lot in the works.
I'm also thinking of Firesprite.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine, actually, who I spoke to years ago when she wanted to get into the gaming industry, and I gave a few tips, and she started working in Edinburgh. She now works for Firesprite in Liverpool in the UK. So it's amazing to have a friend who now works for that amazing first-party PlayStation VR studio. But so yeah, huge congrats to Fawn. Just give her a shout out there. Yeah. But I'm thinking of the Persistence. They had was it Enhanced? Mm-hmm. Was that what it was called? Yeah. Which had ray tracing in it, but it was not. It was only a flat screen version. I can imagine them saying, right, we can finally put that onto PSVR2 with actual hands.
Right.
So yeah, those are two developers that come to mind is Endreams and Firesprite.
Let me ask you
And
this.
obviously Firesprite are doing Horizon Call the Mountain, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me ask you this, Miles. We recently got the announcement of Firewall Ultra by First Contact Entertainment, right? And this seems to be something in the middle of. It's not a remaster. It's not a PSVR2 upgrade, but it's also not a full-fledged sequel. It doesn't seem like. It seems like we're getting a lot of the same contractors with some new ones, a lot of the same maps with some new ones, and expanded areas. The maps have obviously evolved.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like a reimaginings, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. And so and of course, then, adding, again, just like I said earlier in the show, this is their chance to add all the things that people have been asking them for throughout the past 4 years, with dedicated servers and rounds and everything else, right? They've listed all the things that they're going to be changing. Do you think maybe this is sort of the way to do remasters? To be like, because obviously, let's put it this way. If you just do a straight remaster and you're not giving us any new features or any new maps or any new characters or anything else, then by all means, I'm absolutely going to be like, well, why isn't this free? Why, I've already bought your game,
right?
And you're just up-resing everything. And like I say, just again, developers out there, trust me, I feel for you. You're just doing a whole lot of nothing. Why are we paying for it? No, but this obviously we're paying for. Firewall Ultra is kind of like Firewall 1.5, if not Firewall 1.75, right? And no one's going to be like, well, how come this isn't free? So maybe is this the smarter move? Is to take your older game and fucking just put it through round after round of steroids until it feels like a brand new PlayStation VR2 game?
I mean, look, this is, as many things on this show, pure speculation, but I get the impression that First Contact Entertainment have been working on this PSVR2 version for years.
Yeah.
Solaris, Off-World Combat, that I absolutely loved. I'm just going to say it. It felt like it got completely abandoned, which was a real shame. But I do think it was because, and I do think a big part of it was, no, they're putting all their resources towards Firewall, and I have a feeling it's not just about these new season passes they're doing every so often. There's something else going on, and we thought for ages. Clearly, they are going to go on a PSVR2 or a next gen version, and I think that's it. So, it's. I know you're not saying this, Brian, but I just want to sort of make it clear to everyone watching. It's a real task to even do a 1.5 version of a game, and I think this Firewall Ultra is going to be. I think the fact that they're sort of reimagining maps, I think it's just have some kind of continuity. Mm-hmm. It's like what happened in the good old days of Counter-Strike. They have the famous maps and they sort of bring them back and upgrade them. I think that this game is going to be more than a 1.5, maybe a 1.8 or 9.
Nate Dog Cat A. Nate Dog Cata. There's got to be a better way to say this with the $5 tip. So Saints and Sinners 2 was announced for both PSVR and PlayStation VR 2. This is a situation where we need to know if there's a free upgrade from PSVR to PSVR 2. I agree. This because
yes,
right? It's I mean, games we bought 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's like, well, yes, you bought this game 6 years ago, and yes, we're going to charge you for a new. For the new version of it is almost understandable. Almost like I can sort of see like if developers put the time into to add sense control support and everything else, where you're like, hey, we're gonna charge you for this. It feels like a new game. Firewall Ultra absolutely is a new game, no matter how you label it. There are certainly games where you're like, oh, this makes perfect sense, but right now it's September 16th. And we're expecting PSVR 2 to be here within like 6 months. And so if there's not a free upgrade for Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 or Do Not Open,
we riot.
Or any other game coming out from this point forward, we don't riot, Miles.
We close the channel down.
I think we don't buy their game. And it's not to punish them. It's to not punish ourselves. It's to save money to buy the good version. Right. And so, again, I do think it's very important that these developers start coming out of the woodwork and being like, hey, we heard the news, too. We want to let you know what our plan is. And that way we can make smart purchasing decisions from this point forward. It's only fair, don't you think?
Yeah, but I actually think it's not down to them. I think this is what we've seen again and again in this whole thing. Sony has control on the messaging, and they could be saying to the devs behind the scenes right now, and it's backwards compatibility options of patching will be announced nearer the time, but we want to get these big PSVR2 titles announced first at the upcoming showcase. I mean, they wouldn't even talk about the showcase to them, but there's a sequencing of messaging. And so I think I just feel sorry for the devs because I think, yeah, if there's nothing they can do about it because they want access to the PSVR2 platform, and so they have to stay in Sony's good books, and Sony will have to say, right, now you're okay to talk about this. So my feeling is this is something they're not even able to publicly talk about.
Yeah, there's a sequence to the messaging. It goes podcast, blog post, blog post, blog post, blog post, podcast.
You missed podcast, and you missed blog post at the start.
Oh fuck! I screwed up.
Oh, no, and you missed 8 months of silence.
Yeah, that's the sequence thus far. Thanks, Sony. You're killing it. Oh man, I just really hope this is the end of the bad news. Right? I feel like it's been a rough time for gamers. We can be a whiny bunch. We can be an entitled bunch. I don't feel this is an example of any of those things. I feel like that if Sony had said 2 years ago, which of course they wouldn't, right? They don't want to, keep people from buying PSVR1 games. Hey, this isn't going to be backwards compatible. They obviously said it in a very quiet way for an important reason. They don't want to make a big deal about it. So that's why we're here, to make a big deal about it, right?
Yeah.
But still, I don't think that this is doom and gloom. I think anybody who's out there being like, well, fuck this, I'm not going to buy a PSVR2 headset because of this. I think, okay. That's response number one. It's emotional on day one. I think it's time to say, okay, well, I can keep my PSVR1 headset. Hopefully all the games I care about will be upgraded for PSVR2, and hopefully those will be a free patch, and then we can all move forward together, and this will be, all in the past eventually. So, yeah. Hey, Miles.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Are we ready to start the show?
No.
Oh, wait. Sorry. We've done the show.
No, we haven't done a show. I was hoping that before the show starts, we could do a warm-up.
Was that practice good?
We could do a warm-up game of 20 questions. You want to do a warm just to kind of get the juices flowing and like shake out all the jitters before the show starts. You know what I mean? Before anyone tunes in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's do that.
All right, man. Well, I mean, just for posterity's sake, I'm gonna put up a timer just to kind of make sure that it feels like the real thing. Do you want to pick a game and host this time?
Yeah, just give me a minute.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I got a game. I got a game.
You got one? Yeah.
I think.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it
looks like a game.
In that case, I know no one's watching or listening, but man, if anybody was, I sure hope that they would try to help me out here, suggest games and questions that I should be asking.
Just pretend people are throwing suggestions your way.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. All right. On my mark, get set, go. Hey, Miles.
Hey, Brian.
Has this developer made other PSVR games?
Yes, they have.
Oh, wow. Right off the bat. Man, I wish this was the real show because I'm kicking ass already.
Shame.
Yeah.
Shame. You're going to get it on the second guess.
What is this, Wordle? No.
Yeah, I know.
Is there a rhythm element to this game?
No, there isn't, Brian. There isn't.
Okay, no rhythm. Man, so if anyone was ever watching the show suggesting Starship Disco, there's just no way that was a thing.
Nah, yeah. It'd probably be Rhodey the Game Cat or something like that. Yeah.
Typical of Rhodey.
Yeah. And he'd probably say something straight after as well because he loves to spam the chat.
Yeah. And you'd probably be trying to run down the clock by having lots of comments about shit because you got
exactly that. Yeah. Like I'm doing now. Yeah. Do you want to move on?
Analog sticks? Does it have analog? Does it use analog sticks?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay, a follow-up question. Does it have aim support?
No.
Okay, no aims. So DualShock 4 only, we're guessing. They made other PSVR games. Does this... Is this part of a series?
No, it's not. It's not part of a series.
Is it based on an existing IP?
man.
Man, you're AJing the fuck out of this game right now.
I'm gonna say no. No, I'm gonna say no.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you play as a human?
You can, yeah.
You can. All right, you guys. That's our big hint so far. You can play as a human. These developers have. Oh, wait a minute. Is this a Survios game?
No, it's not.
Fuck. Well, there goes raw data. I'm gonna go with Awesome Tatum's question. Is
I think when we do this for real later,
Yeah.
we'll skip that question. We'll do another one instead of that. But I think so far these are good questions. This is kind of an entertaining way of doing it.
Oh yeah, no. I'll ask all different questions to make it more tense for the people watching, because then I can answer the right answer right at the last second as the clock explodes. Yeah,
I'm glad we do this before everyone every week. It's always staged. I like it.
Everything we do is staged. We've rehearsed every GAMESCAST from start to finish. Is this Awesome Tatum? I imagine would ask, is this a fantasy setting?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay,
that's 9.
Is this a Bethesda game?
No, it's not.
There goes Skyrim. No, it can't be Doctor Who. There's no IP. It's not based on an IP. Crap, running out of time.
Would you say that it's a game? Yeah, it's a game.
Is there multiplayer?
Yes, there is multiplayer.
Ooh.
That's 11.
You can play as humans. It does have analog stick. They've made other PSVR games, so it can't be Starblood, because I don't think White Moon Dreams has actually made other PSVR games. Are you in a vehicle in this game?
No
vehicles.
Not.
Okay,
that's 12.
Okay. Man. Does this game... can this be played on the flat screen as well? Is there a flat screen version of this game?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Are there
13?
Are there robots or dinosaurs? No. Oh.
No.
That was
14.
That
15.
Was, what?
No, that's 14. That's 14. That's 14. 14. No, there's not.
Josh, we already asked if it's a puzzle game. Oh, no, we didn't ask if it's a puzzle game. This seems to be my fucking Achilles heel.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Last week I didn't know you asked it, but I answered it anyway. Is it a puzzle game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say that.
Yeah, kind of puzzle. Okay, kind of puzzle. Okay. This developer's made other PSVR games. There is multiplayer. It's in a fantasy setting. You can play as humans. It does use analog sticks. Is it first person?
Yes.
Ah, shit, there goes Theseus. Do you do a lot of shooting in this game?
I'm worried I've fucked this up. I don't think I have. No, you can't shoot in this game.
You can't shoot.
That's 17.
Oh my god. We're out of time. Is it Zing the Land Beyond?
No, it's not.
Fuck. I'm out of time. Probably out of questions too. What is the game?
I hope I haven't fucked up the controller. It's Werewolves Within.
It is. There it is. Werewolves Within by Ubisoft.
It is DualShock, isn't it?
It is DualShock. Yeah, there's no move support,
Okay.
which is really strange. Jumping in, being like, "Oh, I thought there was move support in this."
Yeah, and the IP question tripped me up because obviously I knew they made a movie after, also I was like, the werewolves, it's like a mafia style game, so I didn't know, was it based on a card game called Werewolves Within? So that's why I was a bit unsure and had to look it up. But I believe it is an original IP. Even though it's based on
that would not have tripped me up. Yeah, man, this is you did not AJ this. You did a great job. I can't believe.
Cool. We'll do that on the show then.
All right, we'll do this one. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's get this show started.
But obviously, don't guess it on the first one. Like now that you know it.
I need to build suspense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we do every week.
Yeah, totally. That's why I always answer it on the last question or the last second.
It's so good. I love it when you do that. It's great.
It's good.
It's really good.
It's good. I think I'm a pretty good actor too.
Yeah. I love it. Oscar, Emmy.
Terrible.
Next year.
Terrible. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Miles, thank you for hanging out with me and being part of the show, obviously. Guys, if you don't already subscribe to Miles' YouTube channel, click the link in the description below. Join him over there again, the best URL in the world, youtube.com/Miles, M-Y-L-E-S. Pretty crazy. It seems like you've been doing a lot of great content over there. The community's growing and building. I love going over there, watching your streams and seeing a lot of game cats. It's been a good time. What do you got coming up for us, man?
Do you know what? So this weekend, I'm doing a massive brain dump of the ideas I've got for future shows. But something that's long overdue is a quiz. So I don't know if I'll be doing it this Wednesday, but maybe the following, because they're always really good. But the thing I will say is a big issue I've had with my YouTube channel is because it's so old, for years now, when I make content, I lose more subscribers than I gain.
Yeah.
So I was about to hit 50,000 about 8 years ago. I'm now on 47,000. But I looked at a chart recently because even though I'm motivated to keep making content, it does kick you in the gut when you're like, oh, every time I do content, it's going down. But I am gaining subs. And the thing I was just going to say was I looked at the graph and the difference between those unsubscribing and subscribing is so narrow now. So we're getting to a crossover now where it's going to start growing again. And once that happens, that's been something I've been going against for about 3 years. So I just want to say for everyone that's supported the show and that, and Brian, you've been brilliant for that as well. Just really, really appreciate it because it's been a long comeback journey and you just have to stick at it. And I'm just really happy with how it's all going. And it's all thanks to the amazing community. So thank you.
Music on my end. I don't know what that is either.
I get us copy strike.
There's always people blasting music in my parking lot. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? You think that thousands of people just want to hear whatever it is you happen to be listening to right now? He says, old man yelling at clouds. I'm such an old man. I'm like, just shut up. I'm trying to sleep. All right, guys, thank you, everyone who helps the channel out. Of course, all the moderators doing God's work, not just over here, but over on Discord. Remember to join our Discord. Click the link in the description below. Hang out with us over there, and of course, play some Killing Floor Incursion with us this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you again to Professor Lilith for organizing that. Also, shout out to Jay Meow, who gets this thing up on podcast services of your choice, and Sci-Fi Game Cat Henry that puts all the timestamps in after the fact. We love you guys so very much. Thanks to everybody who helped out in 20 questions. You didn't do a very good job, but that's okay. I still love you. Thank you to everybody who participated in the chat, voiced your opinions, tipped, and supports the channel financially here and on patreon.com/withoutprogames. And also thank you to everybody who sat back to watch the show. Didn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there too, and we love you just as much. Now let's get out of here. Let's go have a wonderful weekend. Good night, everybody.
Have a great Friday weekend, everybody.
Kramer 3K, the backwards incompatible game cat in the chat says, Brian, get off my lawn, Paul. Dude, I am. That is such me. That is such me. Oh, hey, we should probably not get out of here until, I bet you've been playing some games and you have outrageous things that have happened to you happen this week that you want to share with some of the cats, don't you?
Nah, never outrageous with me, Brian. I'm just, trying to be a good citizen in the virtual world. I sometimes like to be an undercover cop, like a detective, and see if I can find any criminals. And I was in this little fantasy-style village, stumbled across a fella. And he was interesting to say the least. I got some body cam footage if you want to see.
Let's check that shit out. That's not it. let's try that again.
That's not that body cam footage.
I found it. Wrong button.
Blade
What up, buddy? I'm right next to you. I can literally touch your leg.
Touching my leg, man. It's kind of gay.
Yeah? You like that? Okay. What are you up to?
Smoking.
So what are you smoking? Just a bit of tobacco? Or wacky tobacco?
And that good shit.
Yeah, what state are you in? When I say what state you in, I mean like, I know you're high, but...
You what?
What are you smoking, man? Tell me. Yeah, what type?
What are you smoking?
I'm not smoking anything, man. I'm having red wine, and it says loves pizza on the bottle.
That's that good shit.
It's really good shit, mate, and it's only £5 from Aldi. And I know you don't know what Aldi is, but Aldi's fucking awesome.
And what is that?
It's a supermarket here in the UK, but it's not from the UK. It's like from inland Europe. It's German, isn't it, Rob? Yeah, German.
Send me some of that.
Yeah, but you got to tell me what you're smoking.
Smoking that good weed.
Yeah, you keep saying that good weed, but I hear about lots of good weed. But what type? You must know what bud it is, man. What is it?
That ganja.
Ganja, that ganja. Yeah. Where'd you get it from?
From my boy.
From you?
Yeah, talking about
I have to say, man, for a guy that's all right, for a guy that's stoned, you're definitely playing the right-looking character.
Oh shit, yeah, this guy does look stoned. I got them red eyes.
You, you do have the red eyes. You do.
Dude, I love when he leaned in, like he was gonna tell you, like he was gonna tell you a secret, like you can tell secrets in the game by leaning in, and it kind of like only lets the two of you hear each other. And I love that he used that mechanic to lean in, only to be like the good shit.
This is what's good. I love about the VR. I always talk about the social aspects. Like we weren't even playing the game then. You know, we were waiting for other people to join, and yet that hilarity ensues. I was absolutely drunk with my friend Rob at the time, and I was actually showing him VR. The game, he'd never seen the game, and he just couldn't believe it. He was like, "What is this? The game?" I was like, "No." And I can't even imagine playing that game with him. Can you imagine that?
Oh,
are you
God.
the werewolf?
Oh yeah, man, yeah.
Oh yeah, he was fucking done, dude. He was done. there was no way he was gonna get into anything. He was looking to get the fuck out.
You would know as soon as the game starts. You'd hear him go,
Oh no, man, I'm the werewolf. I hate being the werewolf.
What was his name? SLD for life. I don't know if he still plays. This is actually a few years old, this clip, so we'll have to get him back on for a GameCat meetup Sunday.
Oh shit! Shout out to SLD for life. I'm assuming that's not salad for life. I'm assuming it stands for something else. But
Good salad, man.
shout out to SLD for life for our laugh of the week.
Oh, man.
All right, have a good weekend, everybody. We love you all.